Hi Year 8s. Let's look at Chapter 3C, adding and subtracting negative fractions. Today we will be looking at understanding the rules that apply for adding and subtracting negative integers and also applying that to fractions. Remember, we did these rules back up in Chapter 1, so if you need to go back through your notes in your workbook, please do so as a refresher. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to apply these rules to solve addition and subtraction of negative fractions. So let's look at the two rules. Rule number 1 is adding a negative integer is the same as, can you remember? Adding a negative integer is the same as subtracting its opposite. So in your notes, you should already have this sentence. If you don't, please make sure you've got it down. Subtracting its opposite. So in this example, we have our whole integers here. We've got 7 plus negative 8 equals what? So if we look at our rule, we have adding a negative integer. We're adding a negative integer. The negative integer here is negative 8. So 7 plus negative 8. The rule says that we need to subtract its opposite. So we're going to change this addition symbol to a subtraction. And the opposite of negative 8 is what? Well, it's positive 8. So we're going to change that whole equation to look like this. 7 take away positive 8. And now you know it's a very simple subtraction equation, and that should equal negative 1. So to apply this rule to fractions, it's exactly the same. Adding a negative fraction is the same as what? Well, it's the same as subtracting its opposite. Subtracting its opposite. Let's look at the example. 1/3 plus negative 1/3 equals what? If I were to subtract the opposite of that second term, that would be 1/3 take away or minus the opposite of negative 1/3, which is positive 1/3. And what's the answer here? Well, 1/3 take away 1/3 would be 0. Rule number 2. Subtracting a negative integer is the same as what? Its opposite. Have a look through your notes. We've done this before in Chapter 1. Subtracting a negative integer is the same as adding its opposite. So it's exactly the same as the rule number 1, just the opposite of that. In this example, we have the whole integer 12 minusing negative 5, or taking away negative 5. So the rule states that we need to leave the first term by itself. We don't change the value of that, but we do need to change the the takeaway to a positive, an addition, 12 plus, and the opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. So now we know 12 plus 5, the answer there would be 17. Okay, when we're dealing with negative fractions like this example here, subtracting a negative fraction is the same as what? Well, we know it's now adding its opposite. So we have, for our example, 2/5 take away negative 1/5. How would we rewrite this to apply the rule? Well, keep 2/5 the same, and we change the takeaway or minus to an addition, and the negative 1/5, we would be adding the opposite of that negative 1/5, which would be positive 1/5. Okay, what's 2/5 plus 1/5? Well, when we have an addition, we must make sure that the denominators are the same. In this case, they are. So we keep the denominator the same for our answer, and we just add the two numerators, which would equal 3. So our answer there would be 3/5. Please make sure that you have written down both your learning intentions, success criteria, and those rules as well. And we're going to go through a few worked examples now. Okay, let's look at worked example number 1. If we have 2/7 plus negative 5/7, how would you apply? Which rule would you apply? Well, in this case, we're adding a negative fraction. So we're going to change our equation to look like 2/7. We change just the addition to a subtraction, and the opposite of a -5/7 is +5/7. Now it looks like an equation we can solve. We know that the denominators are the same, and we're just taking away simply one numerator from another numerator. 2 minus 5 would be -3/7. Our second example, 2/3 take away -4/3. Let's have a look at this example. How would I change, what would I need to change this operation to? Of course, it's a negative now, and so we change it to a positive. Then this term here, we'd need to change it to, that's opposite. So right now it's a -4/3, we change it to a +4/3, and now it's a simple addition of fractions. 2 plus 4 is 6. Can I simplify that fraction? Yes, I can. I know that the highest common factor for both of those numbers is 3. So I'm going to divide each side by, 3. So the answer there would be 6 divided by 3 is 2, divided by 3 divided by 3 is 1. A whole number 2. Another example, 1/5 plus -1/4. Okay. Well, now we can change the addition to a subtraction. The opposite of -1/4 is +1/4. Can we go ahead and take away these two fractions from each other? No, we may need to make sure that our denominators are the same. Let's look at making sure that they are. So 5 times 4 would give me 20. Take away 4 times 5, 20. But whatever we do to the bottom, we must do to the top. So if I've multiplied 5 by 4 to get 20, I need to multiply 1 by 4 to get 4. And then the 4 times 5 equals 20, and 1 times 5 equals 5. Okay. Now it's a simple 4/20 take away 5/20. 4 take away 5 we know is a negative number, so it's going to be -1/20. Our last example, okay, we've got a mixed fraction there. We have -7/3 take away -3 2/3. My first step there, I need to make sure that I'm converting that mixed fraction into an improper fraction. So we convert into an improper fraction before we start at all. How do I do that? Remember, when I have a mixed fraction, I multiply the denominator by the whole number. So I'm going to multiply these two numbers together, and then I'm going to add my numerator to give me a final numerator. So let's carry this whole equation across, keeping the same. For right now, we're going to keep that operation the same. And it would be negative, what's 3 times 3? 9, plus the numerator 2, that's 11, over the same denominator of 3. Okay, so that's what my new equation looks like. It is equivalent to this equation here. Okay, now we can start working out, using our rule, what is -7/3 minus -11/3. So according to our rule, if we're going to subtract a negative number, we're going to change this operation from a negative to a positive. So it's going to be -7/3 plus the opposite of -11/3, which is +11/3. And now I can simply use my number line if I have one, or I can use my head. Remember, those denominators are the same, so I can simply add those two fractions together now. My answer will be something over 3. -7 plus 11, well, -7 on a number line plus 11 will give us a +4. So that would be an answer of +4 over 3, 4/3. And then we need to reconvert that from an improper fraction back to a mixed fraction. So convert to a mixed fraction. How many 3's go into 4? Well, I know that 1 3 can fit into 4, and there'd be one remainder. So that would be 1 1/3 as an answer.